problem. Pesticides also. One of the problems with pesticides, again, it's, you know, these are things that we learn, but we put them on, obviously concerned about what's happening on the land. But you take a look at every pesticide on the label, it says harmful to aquatic life. And what happens is the pesticides get in and they disrupt the food chain, because not only are they effective at killing little pests here, but also the pests, well, they're not pests in water, but the same size, the little critters that eat the leaves and are the basis of the food chain. If those are gone, those little critters, the leaves will not break down, and then all of a sudden you start getting a mucky buildup. And we've actually come across a person who is proposing to dredge out a mucky bay down south of Diamond Point. And we did a little investigation and found out that they were adding hundreds of pounds of pesticides during week periods in the summer. So again, you take out that part of the food chain that would break down the leaves. Nothing's there to break down the leaves. All of a sudden the leaves build up and they have 6 inches of muck, and it's impacting the way they swim. So again, it's the indirect results of what our actions are on land and our land uses. So these are a lot of things that we like to provide in this book. We'll leave a stack here for you. In the back, we also have a list of native plants, shrubs, trees. We have a little checklist here that people can take a look and assess their properties and their actions and see how they rate. We did this with academia. When we worked on this, we have some great illustrations, but we also did research. We did a year of research. We have about 3 pages of sources, what we call. So we did research with university papers to back up the statements that we make in here. We have this online at our website, LakeGeorgeWaterkeepre.org. So you can actually go there and click onto a lot of these research papers if you're that much into it. But we wanted to make it as transparent as possible so that we have backing for the statements that we're making. And we also have a series of fact sheets at our website. So we want to put one of these in everyone's hand. As I said, we're leaving things, stacks here. Take one for your neighbor if they're not here. But we love the opportunity. We want to thank you for it. We want to congratulate you for your work, for stepping up and help protecting the lake. And that's what I have. If there's any questions on this or anything else, I'd love to answer questions if you got it.
You mentioned, I know at the town meetings that you were going to go, you were talking outside in meeting with Dan Belden to try and put a phosphorus ban in town, similar to what they did in the village in Bolton. Took that ban also, is that correct?
The town of Lake George and the village of Lake George have banned phosphorus fertilizers. Not Bolton yet, we're kind of working on them too. Yeah, we're going to set up a meeting with Supervisor Belden. He requested that we did it after the summer, so we respected that. So we're going to sit down. We're going to provide a brief presentation. Kathy Bizzoni with our office, you may have seen her snorkeling around out there over the last couple summers, documenting the algae. She had a great presentation on the changing water quality of Lake George, focusing on the algae and how much algae is growing. So we're going to provide that brief presentation to the town board too. I think it's going to be in October. Actually, Kathy,
okay, I just wanted to enforce something I think is correct. I'd like you to specify if it is. Many of the homeowners who are not on this side of the road or close to the water feel that they can continue to use all kinds of fertilizers and insecticides because they're, quote, not within 20 feet, 50 feet. Could you give us some indication of how far back you have to be before you can not worry about that anymore?
Well, my professional opinion would be not to use them at all. We feel that they get into the watershed, and again, we don't think the fertilizers are... I'll take a step back. If you're reestablishing a lawn and you construct your house and you're from bare soils, I would recommend you take a soil sample. The Cornell Cooperative Extension over in Warrensburg will give you a soil test for $10 to $15 and say if you need some fertilizer and give a recommendation. So you may need fertilizer to get the grass initially established. Once it's established, you really don't need it. Regarding pesticides, you know, they're poison. Let's just face it. So it's our opinion that they will get into the watershed and get to the lake. I don't know of a half-life on their life. There's so many different chemicals that you don't even know are mixed in those. So we would recommend not to do that. If you contact our office, we will give you issues. Now, there are such things, you know, we get contacts, well, we got a poison ivy situation and it's really dangerous, and you know, what can you do? Well, then you can really do some pinpoint, you know, applications if it's going to be a problem. We're not saying that you have to put yourself in danger or something like that, but I think we've got to use our common sense and change our approach. And if we do have a situation where it's, you know, harmful and we don't want to put anybody's family in health risk, you know, then I think you address it on a very small scales. Catherine?
Would you be including soaps and detergents in this phosphorus-free ordinance?
The soaps and detergents are, the laundry has been addressed for years. They're trying, that's more on a statewide basis, you know, work with the manufacturers, and you're working against big lobbies on that. And also the commercial restaurant business is actually the biggest obstacle to getting the phosphorus phosphates out of dishwasher detergent. So, you know, that's on a much higher level. You know, lobbyists get into that. Yes?
There's a couple things you mentioned. First of all, you know, I think we all agree that fertilizers aren't a good thing. But I gotta believe those geese are creating more fertilizer per pound than any of us. Until we can figure out how to permanently get rid of them, this problem's not going to go away anytime soon.
Yep, I gave you my thought on trying to get rid of the geese. I mean, I think, yeah, obviously they've become a problem. The state has realized that, and there's actually a public hearing process going statewide on removal of migratory birds. So that's the way they named it. My feeling is if we try to establish the buffers along the lake and make it so that it's not safe for them to cross, and I know we've had discussions here on that, that's what I feel is the way to address the goose problem. Yeah, it is a problem. It's not only that, it's unhealthy. I have a 3-year-old daughter, and we go down to Town Beach, and you know,
But
it's
the
a
thing
problem.
is if you put that barrier up, okay, and it would be relatively easy for us to do that, that's great. They're going to stop at the grass line. But they're still going to dump plenty of poop on the sand and everything else between the water and the grass line. You know, until you're not going to keep them off land unless you grow the grass in the water.
Well, I think, you know, you've got to have, they're going to want to be in an area because they're going to be eating and have the food source. So again, and unfortunately you'll be an island if you do it and your neighbors don't. And I don't have that. You know, that's why we put out this book, try to put it in everyone's hand and try to educate them. Yeah, it's a problem. Yes, it's a long range type of approach, but I think, you know, if we can get together neighbor by neighbor, and you know, people also question, well, how are you going to enforce the phosphorus ban? Well, I think that if somebody is really looking out for the lake and wanting to protect it, and they see their neighbor doing it, it might become somewhat of a peer pressure issue, you know. So if neighbors can get together and set up that, then I think the geese will not come because they will not have the food source that, you know, will lead to the other problems of waste. So I think, you know, it's more of a neighborhood and community kind of approach. So. Yes?
On that classroom boat ride recently, and we were told that they were going to grease the eggs of the geese so they wouldn't
Put oil on them, yes.
and also that they were going to gather up the geese and gas them.
Yep.
Has that been done?
Not that I'm aware of. Not that, to oil the eggs, you have to really, the timing has to be right, that has to be done in the springtime.
In the spring?
Yes. When they, obviously when they lay their eggs, and it's a particular 2-week window there. So you have to really know when they're in, when they're nesting, and when the eggs have been laid. So, and it's timely, you know, so it has to be done then. To coat the eggs, and you're basically suffocating. Similar to when you have a tick, one of the old things was, you know, they put oil on it so that it can't break.
And how about the...
Now, as far as collecting them, I I'm not sure, to be honest. I think that was part of this state hearing that they were having. There's a public comment period on addressing migratory birds, which kind of gets into that. So
I can address that. I know last year they took about 25 geese that Rudy contacted the state came down, they collected them off Rudd's property last year. They were going to attempt to do it this year, but the state funding got cut back. So they wanted local people to collect the geese and kill the geese. So in lieu of people snapping their necks, the town contracted a local gentleman who shot some geese. Who also has been contracted through Silver Bay, and he probably shot about 130 geese in Silver Bay.